Hi guys! So for today's video, I am doing a Catriona Gray Miss Universe 2018 makeup tutorial. I have seriously never gotten so many comments about me looking like someone, so I thought, what better opportunity than to replicate her look? So first off, I'm just basing my skin and my lips, applying a little bit of lip balm, and I'm also applying a heavy moisturizer. What this is going to do is it's going to make sure my skin is ready to go, it's nice and smooth and moisturized, and of course, if you're Miss Universe, your skin has to look perfect, so this is kind of how I'm making my skin look flawless. Now, with Catriona Gray's eyebrows, hers are a little bit straighter than mine. Obviously, I can only go so far. I'm not going to shave my eyebrows to get them straight, so I'm trying to fill them in as straight as possible. And on top of that, another thing that I noticed that she tends to do with her brows is she will brush up the front parts of them. So I'm taking a brow mascara, this one from Innisfree's Perfect because it has a tiny little wand, and I'm just kind of brushing up the front parts of my brow and then going back in with the spoolie to just blend everything out. Now, Catriona Gray's winning look was definitely a very shimmery, bold, and dramatic look, so of course we've got to prime the lids. I'm using this one from the Sem, and I'm also carrying it down underneath my eyes because, as you'll see later, she does use a little bit of shadow right underneath her lower lash line. I'm also going to use this eyeshadow stick from Pony Effect. It's in the shade Otherwise, and I'm going to kind of create the shape of the look with this and just create more of a base. Now, you'll kind of notice that with her eye shape that she creates, she almost goes up at the beginning and then draws it a little bit past her natural eye. So I'm replicating that and also blending it out with a brush. It doesn't really matter if it's messy. We're going in with shadows, as you can see here. And you'll notice that at the top of her eyeshadow look, it's a little bit warmer and then it kind of gradiates into a darker brown, so that's why I'm mixing those two together. And if need be, I will dip back into the warmer brown shade I'm using and just kind of go over top of that blending line. Now you'll notice she highlights about the inner third of her eye with a bright shimmery color. I chose this shade called Earthshine from NARS, and to be completely honest, it's a little bit more cool, and when I laid it on top of a dark color, I noticed it had more purple reflex to it, so if I were to recreate this look, I would have gone for a more gold shadow right off the bat, but you'll see I do go back in and correct it later. So next for the lid, I'm opting for a very shimmery color. This is one of those liquid shadows from Stila. And as you can see, I use a brush just to apply it to about the inner half of my lid. I would also say I would have gone for something more gold, but this was as close to a color as I actually had. And like I mentioned, I did go back in and kind of correct it a little bit with another NARS eyeshadow. This one's in Alhambra 2. And this just kind of brought out more of the gold tones of the look. And since this was such a shimmery look, I had a good amount of fallout, so I used a little bit of tape to pick up the glitters that had fallen on my cheeks. Now for her eyeliner, she keeps it pretty consistent and true to her natural eye shape. She doesn't really wing it out, she just kind of elongates her eyes slightly. And realistically, the purpose of this eyeliner is to kind of camouflage that last strip we're going to be applying in a second. So she doesn't do anything dramatic, at least compared to what I'm usually used to, so yeah. Nothing too crazy here. Like I mentioned earlier, she does have a little bit of shadow underneath her eyes, so I'm going back in with that dark brown color, and I'm going about 2/3 of the way in. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and tightline my upper waterline. My eyes get so watery from this because I'm not used to lining my waterline anymore, so you can actually see how watery and teary my eyes get. So while I'm waiting for my eyes to calm down, I'm gonna go in with this primer from Innisfree and apply this on my skin. Now this is perfect because it really does smooth and blur out the pores, and it also mattifies the skin, and I assume since she was on stage, she did go for a matte look because you don't wanna reflect any of the lights on stage. And I was pretty generous with this, and while I was waiting for that to sit, I went back in with these velour lashes and applied them. Now for her foundation, she's obviously going to go for a super high coverage foundation and something that's going to perfect her skin. And this one from VDL is kind of perfect for that. I love the coverage of this. I love the finish of it. I mentioned it in my yearly favorites for a reason. It's a beautiful foundation and it's absolutely amazing. Now for the concealer, she's again opting for something that's higher coverage, so I'm kind of mixing these two. I'm using the Makeup Forever towards the outer parts of my eyes and the Undie one towards the inner part, and I'm just kind of mixing them together on my skin with my air puff. She doesn't really have a dramatic under eye highlight, it's just something to camouflage and perfect her skin. Now for the powder, I'm just going to use the Laura Mercier Translucent Loose Powder. And this is just to make sure the makeup doesn't budge or you wouldn't sweat through it on stage. And then right here, I was actually saying how I looked at what she looks like without makeup and what she looks like with makeup. And it did look like she had a pretty heavy nose contour. So I'm going in with the Play 101 stick from Etude House. And I'm kind of carving the sides of my nose with this, as well as the tip of the nose. She has a bit of a rounder nose than I do, so I'm trying to round out the tip of my nose by shading it. And for me, again, the easiest way to blend these types of things out on my skin is to use an air puff. The air puff had a little bit of the concealer and foundation still on it, so it just kind of helps melt the contour into the skin so it doesn't look so obvious. Now next I'm going in with a bronzer, and I love this one from Chanel. It's not too warm, it's not too cold, and she has a pretty heavy contour as well. And she has a little bit higher cheeks than me, so I'm trying to replicate that by being a little bit more dramatic with my bronzer. She also, like I do on a typical day-to-day basis, goes along her temples of her forehead, so I'm also shading that as well. And then if you look at pictures of her on stage and just pictures of her, she doesn't seem to go for a super heavy blush color, so I'm opting for one that just adds a teeny tiny bit of color to my skin. It seems like it's like a peachy pink type of color. So again, something very natural. And then I'm only using this highlight on the tip of my nose, again, to try to round out the appearance of my nose, because like I said, she does have a rounder nose than I do. And then last but not least, I am applying her signature red lip. And for this, I am going for something that is a bit more of a semi-matte. It's not a super shiny color, but it's also not a super matte color, so it's in between. And I didn't have as dark as a red as she had. This was as close as I could get. But yeah, I thought it was pretty close. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed this makeup tutorial. I had a lot of fun recreating it, and I will leave links down in the description box below of where I picked up any of the products I showed in this video. As always, I hope you guys are happy and healthy, and don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, share with your friends and family, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in my next video.